This episode is brought to you by Audi. The road is calling. Embrace the thrill of the drive with the all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron. Featuring effortless power, serious acceleration, and advanced Audi tech. It's not just a new EV. It's a new way to experience driving. The all-new, fully electric Audi Q6 e-tron is here. The next chapter of Audi starts now.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
You're listening to the Animation Addicts podcast with the Rotoscopers, episode 321, Wicked, because we saw it and we want to talk about it. Welcome to the Animation Addicts podcast with the Rotoscopers, the number one place to get your animation fix with animation addicts just like you. Each episode, we dive into the wonderful world of animation featuring Disney, DreamWorks, Pixar, and everything in between. From hilarious discussions and movie reviews to interviews with industry insiders, this show's mission is to brighten your day through our love of animation. So hop on your nerdy couch, grab some snacks, and get ready to hang out with your animation besties because it's time to dive into today's episode. Hey there, animation addicts. My name is Chelsea Robson.
And I'm your nighttime DJ, Morgan Stradling.
Ooh. Morgan.
Yes.
So Morgan and I, we are in my car, as we do when we go and see movies together. We like to go and sit in my car and we gab about it.
Yes, it's a special car episode. Some of our favorites, some of the best. You know, what's crazy is 1 year ago today, Wish came out. And we had another car episode. And I was thinking, it's only been a year since Wish came out. It feels like eons ago. Don't you feel?
Yes, it does. It feels like
a lot has happened this past year. 2024 has been a fast but long year.
It really has. Wow.
If you're wondering why I sound like this, I got sick earlier this week on Sunday. I felt like I was swallowing razor blades, and then that quickly resolved within a day. And then the cough and the loss of voice. And so I wanted to go see this movie with Chelsea, and she said, hey, I brought my recording stuff. And I said, are you sure about that? Because I'm not so sure I sound so great. So,
well, here's the thing. How many times have I recorded with zero voice?
Oh, that's true. This is very true. Chelsea,
go back and
takes one
count.
For the team.
Okay. There have been multiple times.
I do have this cough, though, which Chelsea also has had the cough. So I apologize in advance for that, but you're getting lower register Morgan today. I am the tenor version if we're speaking in Broadway terms. Tenor? Yeah? No?
Yeah, you can go tenor.
Slightly.
You're definitely not bass yet. I mean,
definitely not bass. Maybe alto. Probably my alto range. Tenor.
For sure.
I don't know. But enough about me. Let's talk about
me. Enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me?
Imagine what's possible when learning doesn't get in the way of life. At Capella University, our game-changing FlexPath learning format lets you set your own deadlines so you can learn at a time and pace that works for you. It's an education you can tailor to your schedule. That means you don't have to put your life on hold to pursue your professional goals. Instead, enjoy learning your way and earn your degree without missing a beat. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
This episode is brought to you by Walmart. New beauty is in bloom at Walmart, and it's all about springtime radiance. From Drybar, Tula Skincare, and hundreds more available online, Walmart has the premium brands you want and this season's on-trend products for flawless, glossy hair and hydrated skin. Big name beauty brands? Check. The things you love? Check. Find trending spring beauty and all you need to look and feel gorgeous at Walmart, on app and online.
I can say to my new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra, hey, find a keto-friendly restaurant nearby and text it to Beth and Steve. And it does, without me lifting a finger. So I can get in more squats anywhere I can. 1, 2, 3.
Will that be cash or credit?
Credit. 4.
Galaxy S25 Ultra, the AI companion that does the heavy lifting so you can do you. Get yours at Samsung.com. Compatible with select apps. Requires Google Gemini account. Results may vary based on input. Check responses for accuracy.
Okay, so first, we are talking about Wicked.
Yeah.
The 2024 film that was just released. Let's give you some basic information. It was released today, November 22nd, 2024. The studio is distributed by Universal Pictures and production by Universal Pictures. Directed by John M. Chu. And we don't have any box office information at this point in time. But obviously, this is based on the mega hit Broadway musical of the same name,
Yes.
Wicked, who is Stephen Schwartz.
Stephen Schwartz.
It's Stephen Schwartz's baby. I just got done watching Prince of Egypt, which is also Stephen Schwartz. I mean, so that's this is our 7 Degrees of Kevin Bacon thing. Sometimes you're like, well, this is a random episode of the podcast. It's 7 Degrees of animation. So Stephen Schwartz did animated movies. Therefore,
They had animation.
They're CGI. They're CGI and everything. So there you go.
Special effects.
But hey, you know what? We want to talk about it. So we are. So
We do,
Chelsea,
yeah.
you're chomping at the bit.
I am, yeah. So I just wanted to give a little bit of a background of a very quick detour of I remember seeing this on Broadway in New York around 2007, I would say. And it was not with the original cast.
Yeah.
But
the original cast was only about a year after or at least Kristen Chenoweth was there about a year after the Tonys. She left a little bit later.
Yeah.
And Adina stayed a little bit longer, but
Oh my gosh. Okay, in 2006, I was on a tour with my parents and my brother. We went to Europe and I happened to be in London the day before before Idina Menzel started on the Broadway of the UK. And we didn't get to go. And I just remember being so bummed with this whole thing. So I don't know.
So before we say this, we're big fans of the musical. I have seen it. I think I saw it in 2007. I saw it later in 2010. I saw it in New York. I think I've seen it 4, if not 5 times.
Wow. Okay.
I think 4.
Okay,
I've read the book.
I did not read the book. I've probably only seen it twice.
Yeah.
But it sticks with you.
Yeah, it came out in 2003. I remember my first introduction to Wicked was I was working a job in 2004, and it was a data entry job. Mm-hmm. And, there were only 2 or 3 of us working there, and we, doing rebates for tires. And, then someone picked the playlist, and I remember Popular came on, and I just became completely enamored with that song. Had to look it up. What is this from? So it was about a year after the Broadway musical came out. So yeah, big fan, obviously. And however, ever since this has been announced, I have not been a big fan.
Yeah. I remember talking about this a couple of years ago and just hearing about the casting choices and being dumbfounded.
Yeah.
Because I remember at one point in time, they were somebody had made a fan edit of an
animatic of Defying Gravity.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, oh my goodness.
This needs to be a thing.
This needs to be animation.
That would have been, honestly, the best medium for this kind of a show. And I think just animation and Broadway just go so hand in hand. And to start on Broadway and to go back to animation as opposed to the vice versa, which has been normally the case with Disney specifically, I think would have been really great. But yeah, I mean,
I will say it was fantastic and it was fabulous. And it was so over the top. It was so campy, not campy, but it was very Broadway. It leaned into the Broadway. There were thousands,
they did not hide that.
Hundreds of dancers, it seems, and the chorus and the costuming and the sets.
Costumes were amazing.
I felt it really took the show and amplified it. You can only do so much on a production. The sets are amazing on Wicked, but these you really feel like you're in the world.
Yes. I'm going to get really critical at some point just because that's what I do. So let's start off high level. Yeah. Would you recommend this?
I would. Immediately, I'm like, I need to text my mom and dad. They're going to go see this tomorrow and they're going to love it. Yeah.
I agree. I feel like this is something that would be very good, is very good, and that is something that the musicality of it was really well done. And like you said, the costumes, the whole set design, everything about it just is like glowing. It's just beautiful. Okay, that being said, the things that I didn't like were the things that from the beginning I was not a fan of. And it was the casting of the top.
I think that's the biggest thing for you and I that we need to talk about. And it's particularly, this has 2 lead actresses.
Yes.
It's not, a male and female. It's not, a female with a supporting female. It is 2 strong female actresses. And so we have, obviously, the original cast recording is Kristen Chenoweth as Glinda or Galinda. Right. And Idina Menzel.
It's so hard for me. It's so hard. Adele Dazeem. It's so hard for me to see anybody else in this role personally, just because they were so. I mean, they really did.
They owned it. They created the roles.
Yeah,
and
each one of
every
the roles
person has had their own spin and interpretation on it, but it always goes back to those original.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that. Like, honestly, I went into this not wanting to project that.
Right.
Like, I really tried to be like, okay, let's see what they're going to do with this. Because, if somebody comes in and actually is comfortable in their skin and in the role that they're playing, then I can buy it.
Yeah.
It's like if you're trying to be something different from what has already been done just for the sake of being different, it's like, that's weird. But if you're just coming in being yourself in this role, then it's like, okay, I'll buy that.
Yeah. So we have Cynthia Erivo as Elphaba and Ariana Grande as Galinda.
Yes. And I mean, I feel like they both tried to be Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel.
Oh, I think Ariana Grande tried to be Kristen Chenoweth, but I don't feel that Cynthia really tried to be Idina at all. So let's break them up first and talk about one or the other. So who do you want to talk about first? So initially,
let's start with Ariana
Grande. Okay. So when this was first announced, I mean, hearing Ariana Grande, I was like, what on earth? I mean, I'm not the biggest Ariana Grande fan. I'm not a big...
Are you a fan at all?
No, I mean, no.
Do you know any of her songs?
Thank You Next. Is that one? Yeah. Okay. So maybe that's the only one I could tell you of hers. But I'm aware of her, and I'm aware that she is a big phenomenon, and obviously a big player, and came up in the 2010s. And it just felt like gimmick casting to me. It just like, well, hold on. This is the Broadway musical. It's like when you did Les Mis and you're bringing Les Mis on.
Right.
Why do we have to go to this? In my mind, gimmick casting, but here's the thing: she started on Broadway. When she was 15, she was in the Broadway play called 13, and she was in that. And growing up, she did tons of musical theater, has been in tons of productions. She is a Broadway musical girly, as my friend says, and she is. And so obviously anyone like
her vocal chops were phenomenal.
She could hit the notes.
Fantastic.
She did fantastic. So this is a dream role for her.
Yes.
My problem is aesthetically. Initially, ever since I heard it, I'm like, she's terrible as a blonde. Yeah. She is not a blonde, and she refused to wear a wig. She dyed her hair and dyed her eyebrows, and I felt like that alone. Plus, she's had a lot of plastic surgery over the years. She's barely 30, and she looks so alien now that she's pretty, but there's like, you're like, something's off. So it's hard for me. It's once you hit like a certain level of plastic surgery,
Morgan knows. Morgan follows these things.
I do. You hit this weird, not an uncanny valley, but just like you start looking alien. And I think Ariana, while beautiful, is turning into that. And I have a hard time looking at her for that reason. And then you throw the blonde on top, and I'm distracted the whole time. The whole entire movie, I could not get over how washed out she was because she shouldn't be a blonde. So fine, if you want to be Glinda, put on the wig and keep your eyebrows dark. I'm fine with that. You know, I ever since this has been announced, this has obviously been my biggest thing. She doesn't look the part. Now, talking about how she plays the part, it's funny because she hits all the notes, like you said.
Right.
And she has a fantastic voice. I had no problem with her singing chops, her performance as far as like singing and hitting.
Her movements, I felt she did, like, as far as her ability to move and dance, great.
She checks off all the boxes, but there's this disconnect where it feels like she is cosplaying the character and not being the character. I didn't feel like she was Glinda. It felt like she was pretending to be Glinda.
Well, and something that's just so Kristen Chenoweth is that she just owns who she is.
Yeah.
And if you were trying to get somebody to be Kristen Chenoweth, you should have gotten a person who naturally has that same flair.
Yeah.
And Ariana just doesn't have that. I didn't have any issues with her aesthetics. I mostly had the issue with it just wasn't believable.
Yeah.
And it just didn't feel like her main energy was able to come forth. And it felt like she was trying to be something that wasn't her real energy.
A lot.
Yeah.
Where it comes off inauthentic.
Yes. And yeah, that was my main issue with her is she just, the energy did not match
now the
who
character
she was trying to be.
The character of Glinda is hilarious, and that's because of the script.
Yes.
The script is so funny. I mean, I haven't seen Wicked in such a long time, and I was just laughing and having a great time with it because it's really so well written.
Yes.
And there's a lot of character development that happens, and their relationship as they grow together is really believable. And so the moments that I really did enjoy, I think I was more laughing at the script than the performance. Although I will say listen, like, I'm being very critical here, but she did a great job. However, there was that weird disconnect.
Yeah.
Like maybe we could have, and this has always been my thing, and I know this is never the popular take, but why can't we get the Broadway people? You have such a pool of amazing Glindas over the years, amazing Elphabas over the years. I understand we're not going to get Kristen Chenoweth and Idina Menzel,
but they did show up.
They did. We'll talk about that. But there's a lot to choose from, and I know the Hollywood way is we got to like find the Hollywood folks to really bring in the numbers. But I'm like, really, Ariana Grande was probably the only draw. I mean,
my question is, do people actually go for Ariana Grande?
I mean, she definitely We say this every single time.
I know, but she has her own fandom. Yes.
This is like Lady Gaga in A Star is Born. Like, okay, I love Lady Gaga. Think she's phenomenal. Obviously saw that movie because she was in it. Did I, but... so you're always going to have...
The funny thing is, like...
But she's not that great of an actress. She's pretty good, and she can sing.
I actually really wanted to see The Joker too because she was in it, and then I heard all the craptastic like things about it, and I was like, "Oh,
I heard her. I know. I wanted to see it too. I was like, and then it's a musical, that's like a hidden musical, whatever, great, and Lady Gaga, so she's going to kill all of those things. And then there was one particular review that I saw of Joker 2 was like, even if you want to, you've heard how bad it is. Even if you want to just enjoy how bad it is and see it for that, don't. Just don't. It won't. There's nothing good that will come of this. Just don't. And I was like, oh man. Okay, I won't. So I took that seriously. Yeah. And then read the ending or read everything was spoiled by it. I was like, ugh. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. Right. Good advice. Thanks.
I mean, that's tangent time for sure. But still, the point stands is that there's certain characters, certain actors that do bring in their people because they are those because they have their fans. I would have gone to see Joker 2 because it brought in the musical side as opposed to being a musical
and me going because it's a musical. Like, I feel like the Ariana Grande people would have gone because they're musical people anyway.
Right.
And so I don't feel like it created enough of a cross section to really justify putting a name in like Ariana Grande just because it's her name.
I think
I have no ill will toward her. Like, I felt she did a great job. And as far as
I was very impressed.
Her chops, all these other things, it just was like, it just didn't come across the footlights, as my mom would say.
Like, you're amazing. You did a great job in this role, but the casting still felt off.
Yeah.
For a weird, like, we were talking to someone recently about something similar about casting a character, and there came a certain point where they were a week or two into rehearsals, and said, I really wish we would have gone the other way. And
I wonder how it would have been.
Yes,
if
this
we would have
person
gone the other way.
This person now we have is great, but you kind of wonder, I think we made a mistake.
Yeah.
I don't know. So. Okay, we can keep talking about her. But
okay, and now we're moving on to
Cynthia Erivo, who is Elphaba, and she made her debut. I mean, she is a singer.
Right.
She made her debut in the revival of The Color Purple from 2015 to 2017. She won the 2016 Tony Best Actress in a Musical and the Grammy Award for Best Musical Theater Album. And then she went on to play Harriet Tubman in Harriet 2019 and has done a few other things since then, but obviously she was like up and coming, a big name. She'd done the Broadway, was in some other movies by the time this eventually started rolling around. This started in 2012 when they really were kicking off, hey, we're going to do this, and then just kind of was in development, picks for a while, and then COVID really shut things.
Yeah.
And so they finally were able to get it back
over
going.
A decade.
Yeah.
Steven Schwartz, I'm sorry, man.
I mean, this guy's made so much money off Wicked. Like, whatever. I don't feel bad for you. But I'm sure he wants to move on to other things, maybe. I don't know. This will make him another billion.
Yeah,
well, not him personally, but the movie, 100% this is going to make $1 billion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Based
coming
on
out the
how
week
many
before
people...
Thanksgiving weekend. So it's getting the buzz this weekend. It's going to get the buzz. It's going to get the tons of people next weekend. It's going to have, there's the sing-along version that's supposedly going to be released on Christmas. Okay. So pause. We will talk about, so Cynthia, there's been lots of different Elphabas over the years. So the problem that I had with her, she felt very flat in everything that she did.
I felt the transitions between her acting and her singing were not flow. Did not flow, and it did not have like a real thought. I didn't feel like I could understand her thoughts.
Yes.
And it was just kind of a stone face. I felt both of them had a bit of a stone face connection. Like neither of them connected to me to feel like I understand you, girl. Like I understand what you're thinking. But both of them, it was just kind of going from the words to the song.
You know what?
The transitions were what really got me for both of them.
What epitomizes this is the poster that they came out with. So we have the famous Wicked poster that has Glinda whispering into Elphaba's ear. It's a very monochromatic sort of thing. And the brim of the hat, which is the famous one, of the green skin, the black hat, that's famous part of the Wicked Witch. This was like a reintroduction. Like, ooh, this was before, the backstories of villains were a thing. And so you're getting, whoa, these two characters know each other.
Right.
What is this all about? And then her eyes are shrouded by the brim, and you just see this red lipstick with a little hint of a smirk. Okay.
Right.
That's the original theatrical or Broadway poster for it. And then, so they came out and they obviously played homage to it, but instead of having her eyes shrouded, which is so iconic, is they had her looking straight ahead into the camera. And lots of criticism immediately came because what is the face that you're giving? She's just staring with no emotion. There's no smirk. There's no like glint or hint of anything in her eyes. Like,
it's stone-faced.
It's very stone-faced, and I'm like, what are you thinking? What is going on here? Do you have a motive, or is something sinister? You're a villain. Is there something sinister below? That's why there's the smirk there before. And there was drama with this poster where, musical theater fans are crazy.
They are obsessive.
They are insane, and especially Wicked.
In the best way.
Which is now a top-tier, S-tier musical.
It is.
As far as popularity and domestic or worldwide gross. whatever, all the receipts. It has achieved all of it. And so obviously, hey, you did your poster. That's great. We really like the other one. So I'm just going to like do a little Photoshop tweaks. So a fan did this and, you know, just made it mirror the original, which is cool. And Cynthia rips her a new one on Instagram saying that I'm being erased. And I'm like, whoa, girlfriend. Wicked is not about you.
Right.
Wicked is about the fans.
Yes.
And I don't, she's in the Broadway world. I feel like she should have realized this, but I don't know. So we're not going to get into that controversy.
There was quite a bit of controversy.
There were apologies that were had. And I think, you know, it getting really, really defensive, like you were talking about, not necessarily being comfortable. And maybe she didn't, I don't know. I couldn't imagine being cast as Elphaba. Like, those are pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah, but once again, like if you are going into it with the idea of I'm just going to embody my version of it, like with my own energy, and see how that comes across, then great. Like, yeah. I would buy that. If you are being true to your own energy, and I say that in a weird, like, it may sound like weird to say that, but it's like you can tell when somebody just feels like they are flowing, like they are just moving in a very natural form, like that's good to them. And it's like if you didn't want that flow, then you needed to find somebody else that fit the flow you wanted. So, I mean, that's just that was my take. And when it comes down to it,
her singing voice was not as strong as Ariana's. There were she could hit certain notes. There were certain ranges that she could really hit, and then there were others that were pretty weak, which I thought was interesting. I felt like it's weird. Some of the big booming notes she could hit, but others felt like she couldn't quite.
I think maybe it was just more the acting side when that was happening. I mean, shout out to Ariana. Like, I did not realize how good her chops were. Like, honestly, I did not. And I was just like, girlfriend, you got it. Like, you are really good. Cynthia, I felt like her voice was good. Like, I didn't have any real.
You can't get on Broadway and win a Tony with not having a good voice.
I have zero qualms with her voice. I didn't notice anything, as you were saying. I think the moments that you're thinking of were more her trying to be like the acting, talking.
Yes.
And so that's
not hitting
kind
those.
of like, you know, doing your own thing at that point. However, let's move away from her and go into like the miscasting of like many other people.
Okay, yeah.
Like, there were a couple people that it's like, are we even casting singers now?
This is like the Russell Crowe of Les Mis.
Yes.
Where it's like, whoa, you don't sing.
Right.
This is, how did you get here? And it's funny because in Les Mis, you have Samantha Barks, who played Eponine, like almost leading up to the production of Les Mis, and then plays Eponine in the movie. It's like, oh my gosh, you're amazing.
Like, that's why you're here.
I don't know who you are. Like, I have no connection to you as far, because you hadn't really been in other movies or whatnot. But like as an Eponine, because this is like your craft. This is everything you've worked for, and
that is the part.
But then you have Russell Crowe on the other side.
Yeah.
You're like, you're off tune and it's not happening. And then they have Hugh Jackman in the middle, who's kind of this like he does Broadway. He's a Broadway guy. So but there were a few characters here that I literally, my mouth dropped because I'm like, they can't sing. They're not singing at all. Like they're not even like, can we just get over this era where everyone has to sing? If you really wanted a person for the role, that's great. Can we go back to the 90s and earlier when you would just cast someone to overdub for you? There's nothing wrong with that. Brad Kane as Aladdin. The reason I know that is because his voice, his name always comes up on the soundtrack, right. When you're listening to it. Like, that's not Scott Wagner. Or it's Brad Kane. I have no problem with this. Leah Salonga for Jasmine. Like, we got in this weird situation as a society where it's like, no, you must be the one to do the music. The one that really stood out to me, Madame Morrible, who's the Dean of Sorcery at Shiz University, Michelle Yeoh.
Which, I mean, give her props. She was gorgeous.
I loved her in the role.
In the role, thought she was perfect. She was great, and her aesthetic was fantastic, and the clothes were fantastic.
Yes.
So all of that I felt very good. But
then she starts singing.
Yeah.
And
could have overdubbed that.
It's not even singing. Like, obviously she's singing, but you can tell, like, oh, this person's not classically trained. Like, not trained at all. This is the person
singing.
who went to Robert Love. Is that guy's name? Robert Love, who's supposedly the singing coach for the stars when they get cast in a movie like this. They're like, oh, you don't know how to sing? Okay, go talk. Roger Love? I think it's Roger Love. They go to Roger Love. Like, this is his thing. He taught, the guy in A Star Is Born how to sing, and like everyone goes to this guy. But it's just funny. That was really hard. Bach could sing really well, and
he's a Broadway guy.
Yeah. And that's the thing. When they got the Broadway people in, everything just shone.
Yeah.
Because they were cast right. Like, you have to be a Broadway person and you have to be cast right. And that's what the thing that the two leads didn't have, I feel. But then the wizard was Jeff Goldblum.
I think this applies again. Like, I really like Jeff Goldblum. I think he worked well in the part as, like, his personality.
He had an interesting take on it.
But his voice.
Once he started singing, I'm like, oh no,
why didn't you pick why didn't you overdub this? And then also I was laughing. I made Morgan laugh too, because when he goes behind this silk screen and like does this little soft shoe routine, and I'm like, that's definitely not him dancing. Like, they just, once again, it's like,
once he went off screen, his body double came.
Yes, it's one of those moments where it's like, the Wizard of Oz is Master of Illusion, and even within the Master of Illusion, he has somebody else, a body double, come in to do the dancing behind him. So it's just, I felt like that was probably,
And the other notable one was Marissa Bode as Nessa Rose. I felt that the sister, Nessa Rose,
she wasn't as bad.
I was kind of shocked, because when you're used to hearing the Broadway, everybody in every role, no matter how big or small, and Nessa Rose isn't necessarily a small role, ish, but I mean, she has singing parts that are specifically for her, and so especially in Dancing Through Life,
she's the Wicked Witch of the East.
Yeah,
like, she's a big deal.
And I was shocked. So it's just interesting, because how do we get here? How do we?
I mean, the fact is they're looking for, they're checking boxes. And that's okay if you're going to do that. But once again, there's other people. Like, there are people that exist that are fantastic.
You can check the
singers.
box and overdub them. And
right.
Everything is solved. Everything is solved.
I know.
I don't know.
And I just, But there were a lot of things that, okay, let's go back to the things that we liked, because I feel like it needs to
costuming.
Yes.
And the costuming was really interesting. A lot of like S-curve shapes in the dresses. And there's certain skirts that were in the Emerald City that were really appealing to look at.
When they go to the dance in the Ozdust ballroom, I loved Ariana's outfit.
Yes.
That was, I just looked at Morgan and I was
orange.
like, I love that color.
Yes.
The color scheme. It's fantastic.
All of the costuming, fantastic. I hope it's in contention for an Oscar, because it was noticeably beautiful and everything stood out. Everything hit the right marks. I loved how colorful this world was. Obviously the Emerald City, but even, Shiz with the color palette of the uniforms. And this is obviously pulling from the Broadway, where Glinda is only ever wearing pink. She's, she might have like a pinstripe of a blue to tie into the school colors, but that's about it. And then Elphaba wearing black with, again, like a hint of a little blue to tie it in. But it's really creating this distinction between the characters, which is beautiful and wonderful. The sets and the design of the sets and the world, I thought was really great. It had this, which is from the play. They're pulling from the play. It's not necessarily a steampunk, but it's definitely this like cog. Yeah, it's steampunky. Yeah. And it's really cool. I liked that. Now, there were criticisms when one of the trailers came out that everything was washed. They're like, why doesn't modern cinema and cinematography like have bright colors anymore? And I think it was that one scene that they showcased from Dancing Through Life was backlit, and the whole movie wasn't like that. It was just that one scene where the sun is shining through these giant windows and they're singing, where everything does look really washed out, but the rest of the movie isn't like that. So thankfully, because that would have been sad. So that was clearly an artistic choice for that one segment of a song. Yeah, visually stunning.
That was something that I was like really wowed by. I didn't like that they
let's talk about
stretched it out.
Part 1, Part 2.
Yes.
So this is a revelation for a lot of people because in the advertisements and in the movie posters, it doesn't
there is
put
no
that.
Part 1.
No.
Yeah.
It's only when you're in the opening credits, the opening credits, I guess, and the title screen appears. And it says Wicked, and it's very much this callback font to the 1930s Wizard of Oz. And then just really, Part one, right underneath. It doesn't even appear with Wicked. It appears just a little bit later. And then, so I think people were a little shocked with that. And Chelsea just recently found out that it was a part 1 of 2.
Yeah, and I just feel like I would have liked it better to just do the 3-hour one. And it would have been 2.5 with a,
In the beginning, I was fine with it.
Uh-huh.
They're dragging things out. Not where it's so noticeable, but there's, a little bit more time here and there. I didn't feel there were a lot of new scenes added in the beginning, but as you get towards like the second half of the film, there's a lot more new scenes. The whole train scene is a new scene that isn't, it's just... Glinda just comes to the Emerald City. She's invited. There isn't this like, get on
the train. Yeah. Okay, I'm coming.
Yeah.
I loved when they got to the Emerald City and they had, of course, the duo,
the icons.
The icons show up as the wise ones.
Yes.
Was that in the original?
No.
I don't remember that.
No.
Even
So
those singing parts, even.
No, that was a new song, and I felt that didn't really hit it for me. Like I'm like, this is. It wasn't very memorable. Obviously, it's the first time you're hearing it, but I felt it was fine. But because the song around it, do. Oh, this is the problem when you have don't attempt to sing. Speaking of like criticizing people for their singing voices, I'm not going to attempt to sing because yes, that. But that aside, I didn't really love the song that was created for this, but. Those two appearing, I clapped.
Yes.
It was interesting because there was a certain song that was like it was one of Elphaba's songs, and she finishes it up, and I'm like, man, are we supposed to clap after this? I felt so used to the Broadway that I'm like, I need to clap after these numbers. But in our theater, it was not the custom to clap after the songs.
Quite as
this wasn't
engaged.
But when those two appeared, I clapped, and I clapped loud because.
They need a standing O. They're the ones that really made this play what it is, and like they're so good. They're just so them, and that's really what I mean is going back to their own energy. Like they know who they let their own energy embody whatever they're doing, as opposed to trying to force their energy to shift in order to embody something else.
Yeah.
So that's my whole take on that.
Yeah, watching this made me just want to go back and listen to the original cast recording soundtrack and just to find old clips on because people sneak their cameras in. There are clips that exist, but man, if only they would have had the foresight to do what they did for Hamilton.
Oh yes.
Like every Broadway play needs to do this. Yeah. There's going to be one or like a few recording, a few days.
Whether it's like a hit or not, like you should
just
be
do it.
This.
I'm sure they do, but maybe as high quality of a production. But you need to record the whole thing so that way in 5-10 years times, whenever you want to drag it out, because obviously you want people to see the show.
Actually,
release it on.
From what I've heard, if you have a library card to the New York Library, they actually have videos of all of the cast recordings. Yes, and if you have a library card, please share it with us because we would love to watch some of these things. Yeah, I saw this on Instagram the other day. It's like, if you have this, you can go in and you can watch unlimited versions of. But
why is it just the New York City Library that has it? I mean, it's their home base, but. Come on! But come on, this is another revenue stream for you. Just come on, you can do it.
I mean, I guess like it really has to go into who's getting the rights.
I'm sure there's some sort of,
but at the same time, like I'm sure you can make something happen. Yeah. So anyway, all in all, I felt like this movie was good, and I felt like it was something a visual spectacle to be seen.
Yes,
and how do you think somebody who has never seen a musical would, not a musical, but like this musical. So if you've never seen this musical, but you are now coming in and you like are not musical adverse, like how would you think that they would take it?
I think they'd enjoy it. I think that's like, there's no difference between someone coming in and seeing the play for the first time or the musical versus this as a movie. Like if you like musicals and you're not against them, I don't think you would have any issue with either or. This might be an interesting world to enter for sure.
See, I would, if I were to take somebody who maybe was a little more musical adverse, I would definitely not take them to this first.
Okay.
I would take them to like the actual Broadway play because that one is its own experience and it's shorter. Yeah. For somebody who's adverse to these things, it's, you don't want to spread it out over 6 hours. Like, yeah. But I feel like for somebody who likes it and is just like, oh, I have never been able to see it, but maybe I've heard all the songs, I've heard it all, I think they would really enjoy it and they'd be like, yes, I really like this.
Going back to the length. So the movie, I think, is 2 hours, 40 minutes, which is longer than the entire Broadway play.
Right.
And I really started feeling it towards the end.
I felt
once that train scene and on, which is there's about 45 minutes left at that point, and you're like, okay, I'm going in my head. I'm like, okay, I know what songs and what story beats we have to check. Like, whew, we got a long time. I did fall asleep. And this is because we saw basically a 9 o'clock showing. So at this point, it's getting really late as this movie has been 2 hours into it. And I have a long day, and I'm still recovering from being sick. And so there were just parts like that. Once they have the interaction and contention with the wizard, I felt, which should be like the most climactic part, the battle and the fight.
Like, I'm just waiting for the song.
I was dozing in and out against my will, and so it's because you've dragged this on for so long.
Yeah,
I couldn't help it.
I did not fall asleep, but I definitely felt it. I felt like this is long. And that's the main reason why.
Especially defying gravity. They kept like
multiple tags.
It's almost over. Okay, she's done. She's going to sing the final. Whoa, she's doing this new thing over here. Okay, all right. It's almost.
There's like 3 tags.
Yes. And I didn't enjoy that. I thought, like, what are we doing here? Just wrap it up. Come on,
just end it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So one thing I wanted to talk about. There's not. I mean, this isn't like an Avengers film where the whole thing is CGI, but there's obviously like a lot of compositing and CGI done. It seemed like they had a lot of real sets that they had built instead of just like we're on a green screen, which I appreciated. I really do love like being in a real world. There were some that obviously were, but her cape. So she gets this cape and she's flying in the sky.
That cape just kept growing.
Yes, the never-ending. It's like Rapunzel's hair in Entangled, where sometimes you're like, okay, it's like 30 feet long, and other times, wow, it's 70 feet long, and it's 150 feet long. This is the cape. So the cape grows and lengthens and shortens and lengthens.
At every tag, it just gets like 10 feet longer.
But one thing I really didn't like during that part, you could tell distinctly that it was CGI. It was a CGI cape, and the whole time she was flying felt like 2000. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone Quidditch match. I've listened to interviews with people involved in that. They're like, man, if we would have had just a few more years of technology, those scenes would have been so much better. Like, they feel dated when you're watching them. I felt like that. Like, her riding the broom. Maybe it was the broom that was evoking
I think it was
that.
The broom, yeah.
But hey, maybe they brought on the Harry Potter team. You've
did.
Done people flying on brooms before.
I've been waiting 10 years to redo this.
But the movements felt fake and jerky and like 2000 era animation. It was very distracting for me. Specifically, the movement of the cape and the simulation of the cape. I felt like it would have been so much better.
I also didn't like that she was like holding the cape holding the broom to the side.
She was holding the broom to the side, which is what she does in the Broadway musical. She's kind of just standing there because she's on the harness and she
Right.
holds the broom. But I'm like, okay, we're here.
Yeah.
So can you just plop a leg on the broom and ride it like
Can you like?
this is not
It just looks weird.
because the whole thing is she's using the magic on the broom to help her fly. But then physics aren't physicking when she is like with no weight distribution. She's just holding herself up.
Right.
And so I'm like, are you using the magic on you too? It was
Yes.
not good. She just needed to ride it like a normal witch. Okay.
Yes.
But I feel like it would have been so much better, well served, if they just would have had her on cables, which I'm sure she did some of these on cables, and then done wind, a big fan into the cape just to allow it to flow naturally. We get to this big old ending, and here I am, and I'm probably very much an anomaly in this, but I'm distracted by the cloth simulation of the cape. I didn't like it.
I get it.
Hey, this is the Animation Addicts podcast for you. Just analyzing this to my best of my ability, you know.
Well, so I feel like we've gone through most of the points that we just wanted to talk about, and that's really why we're here. Like we're glad that we went. We're glad to share our thoughts, and if you completely disagree with us, then well, okay. if you maybe thought, I kind of see that a little bit, maybe, then okay, cool. Like somebody else sees it,
We mentioned this, but I saw a thing on social media where there was a theater that put out a sign like, "Hey, FYI, no singing during Wicked. The sing along is coming out December 25th. Please buy your tickets now for that." Basically, and so. And as I go into this, I'm sick, and my coughing gets worse at night, and I'm like, oh, man, here I'm going to have a coughing fit. This is the type of thing where you're not sick per se anymore, at least contagious-wise, but you have the lingering cough, and you're just self-conscious about everyone you're around. So I was like,
especially post-COVID.
Yes, exactly. Like, we're all PTSD from that. And so, I'm covering myself, putting the blanket over myself, and I'm sure the girl next to me was like, oh, who did I sit next to? But let me know in the comments, what is worse? Someone coughing up a lung the entire time in a movie theater, or someone singing the songs at the top of their lungs?
Poorly.
Yes, in a movie
or
theater.
Or even good. But
I don't
still,
know.
Just like...
I don't think there's an easy winner here. So if they're going to be doing this the whole time, would you rather have the perpetual cougher or the horrendous singer? Let us know in the comments of this episode, and let us know your thoughts on this movie. This is not necessarily an animated movie, but still, hey, it's one we like to talk about. And hey, it's our podcast. We do what we want.
We do what we want, yeah. So until next time,
we are the Rotoscopers.
I do have a side story here that kind of like goes into this whole thing. So in 2014, I was living in Nashville, and it was, at the very beginning of the podcast, because, well, we started in 12, but it was like the beginning of the era of Frozen time period. And so Adina Menzel, Adele Dazeem, she's up there and going, and I really wanted to get an interview with Stephen Schwartz, but he was in the middle of, or at least was trying to get The Hunchback of Notre Dame off the ground as a musical. And I even reached out to Steve Higner being like, hey, could you help a girl out? I'd really like to be able to interview him. And he's like, sure. And he sends a really nice email and CC'd me. And it was just like, oh, you were so nice. It was just one of those things. Steve Higner's the nicest man. But it ended up being the his person.
Yeah, his assistant.
And the assistant's like, well, I understand that you would like to, but he is deep in the act of trying to get this other one off the ground. So hopefully another time. And I was just like, dang it. Aww. But thank you, Steve Higner.
We love you, Steve.
It was like I just really wanted to have a Stephen Schwartz interview, because that would have been fantastic.
Icing on the cake.
So if anybody knows him personally, I'm still interested.
Hook a sister up.
I read his book. It was good.
And your line is.
And your line. I want to free the genie.
Anytime.
All right, Morgan.
Time for bed.
Go to bed.
Yes.
Sleep well.
Yes, thank you.
Enjoy the Christmas music.
And yes, thank you so much. Chelsea gave me a very special gift. But yes, and this is Morgan filling in for Delilah.
Yes, thank you.
You've been listening to the Animation Addicts podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to help spread the word, be sure to share the podcast with your friends on social media. Just don't forget to tag us at Rotoscopers on Instagram and use the hashtag AnimationAddicts. For all the links and full show notes for this episode, go to rotoscopers.com/podcast. Now, if you still can't get enough for your animation fix, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and visit rotoscopers.com for more animation news, reviews, and interviews. Thanks for listening.